Do you struggle with the daily deluge of emails that you receive? Let's not even look at your to-do list, which is probably a combination of post-it notes, flagging items, putting items into your calendar, pressing the snooze button, just hoping it goes away. My friends, there is a better way. I know. I've been teaching Outlook for over 20 years, and I can promise you, if you follow the tips in this video, your life in Outlook will go from chaos to calm. Let's go to our PC. Before we start our session, I just wanted to make it clear that the version of Outlook we're using is Office 365. If you're using the online version of Outlook or even the Mac version, the same functionality would not exist. So how are we going to organize our life from chaos to calm? If you look here, you can see that all of my emails are organized by these items called categories. If I go to my calendar, we can see that it doesn't make as much difference, so we'll come back to that shortly. If I go to my contacts are in this unusual view, organized by category, and this just makes it so much easier to communicate with people. The next things we're going to look at will be our task list. This is quite revolutionary. Look at how this is organized to make all the items I'm working on currently so much easier. The final item we're going to look at is our notes, which is not used too often in the world of Outlook. But can you see that having these categories makes it so much easier in terms of keeping myself organized? In our day-to-day lives, we just categorize and organize everything. Just to give you a quick example, if you wanted to go into the store and buy satsumas, you'd go to the fresh food section. You then look for the fruits, you look for the citrus items, you then find your satsumas. You may even then have another category, which would then be organic satsumas. In our love life, we may choose to go on a dating app. And when we're looking for prospective people, we might be looking at wanting them to be in a certain geographic area. We may want them to be in a certain age range. We even then may go into further details and hope they express similar interests to ourselves. Wherever we look, categories organize our life everywhere. So, where will we find the categorize buttons? Well, let's say we're in Mail, for example. On our Home tab, on the ribbon, we have this button here called Categorize. And when I click on it, it opens up this particular menu. What we're going to do the first time is to click on All Categories. And this is the main area we're going to focus on for a few minutes. Now, the most important thing to understand about categories is the first function is to organize your items in Outlook. The second function is the color of the category. I know some people use categories in their calendar, which is great, but in terms of organizing ourselves, the names of the categories we choose are very important. If we look at this white box here, this is called the master categories list. And every single category you add to this list appears across the whole of your system. So if I add a category in Mail and then go to my contacts and open up the categorize button again, even though it may not be related to my contacts, it will still be stored in the master categories list. The first time you open the categories, it will just be the colors, and you'll have 5 or 6 items appearing here, and we're going to now need to look at adding our own categories. So what I'm going to do now is click on New, And I'm going to add a new category. I'm going to call this one urgent. I'm going to click on new again. And let's add a category called clients. Let's add one more category. I want to have a category called accounts. When you look at this list, what you're going to notice is that the items on your list are organized alphabetically. So what I've done is used a full stop in front of urgent, and this will actually make it far easier just to keep it at the top of my list. The key in the world of Outlook is to choose the correct categories in your 5 areas of Outlook, namely your mail, calendar, people, tasks, and your notes. So we've added these new items here. What else can we do? Well, we can also look at renaming a category. So we have this category here called blue. I'm now going to click on the rename button, and I'm going to call this category social. Got the category here called green. Click on rename. I'm going to call this one best friends. Click out the area. We've got one here called orange. I'm going to rename this one category from tasks. We also have the opportunity to delete categories as well. So I'm going to select purple and delete, red, delete. I'm also going to click on yellow and choose to delete this category. Now, when we start to use categories and to become more comfortable, what we're going to realize is that we can also add colors to the categories. There are 25 colors listed here. And if you had over 25 categories, the colors just start to duplicate. There is a button here called shortcut key, not particularly important now, but we'll come back to that one later on. One of the most important things we can do when working with categories is to change the way we view our items. So here I am in the task list. To change it by category, I'm going to click on view. And once we click on view, the default is by start date. I just want to move one to the left and click on the view by category. If you look very closely, you'll notice at the very top, it says none, which means that none of these items are now categorized. Let's start adding categories to these items in different ways. If I click on here, on this item here, and I'm on the Home tab, can we see the first way is simply to go to the ribbon. And I'm going to use the item category from tasks. If you look closely at the bottom of the screen, you can now see this item has been categorized. We can also use this trick using the quick access toolbar. I'm going to go back to this particular item here, and what I'm going to do is use this button where it says add it to the quick access toolbar. So I've just removed it to show you how to add it again. Right click it, add it to your quick access toolbar. Select your item, there it is again, and this is categories that I've just added from tasks. Another option would be to open your item, and your categorize button is here again. Another option, and this is really beautiful, is to take your item and just drag it onto your category, and we've done that as well. Going back to mail, this is beautiful. I'm going to add the category here, which is categories from task. We can see it's categorized here. I'm going to drag this item to my task list. There's the category, there's the subject of the email, and here's all the content from the email. I will be doing a separate lesson on how to use our task list. Close it down. Let's go back to our task list. Can you see I've brought the item from email and it's brought the associated category with it as well? Let's look at another way to actually add categories. Here I've got this item here called right click. You probably guessed what I'm going to do. I'm going to right click the item. Here's the categorize button again, and I'm going to categorize using the category there related to tasks. The next couple are just a little bit more involved. This one here is called shortcut key. So to do this, I'm going to go back to my categorize button and I'm going to click on all categories again. When we look at this menu a little bit more carefully, we can see there's an item here called shortcut key. So I'm going to click on the item. It's now highlighted in blue. And I'm going to assign a shortcut key, which is Control and F2. I haven't ticked it, so it won't select it. But when I go back to this item, I can just press Control and F2. And can you see I've added this item to my list? The last way to categorize is called quick click. This is a little bit more involved, but if there's one category that you're going to use far more than any others, this might be something worth considering to set up. I'm going to go back to my categorize button, and at the very bottom it says set the quick click. You need to go inside and choose which item. Naturally, we're going to use categorize from tasks. Click OK. What we're going to do now is change how my tasks appear. So I'm going to click on view, and there is actually a button here which says add columns. The one we need to add would be the column called categories. This is on the bottom of the list next to the flag. So what I'm going to do to save time, I'm going to move it up the list, and I'm actually going to move it to the left of the subject. Click OK. It's extremely small at the moment, so I'm just going to make it a little bit wider so we can see what's happened. But now that I've set my quick click up in this particular area here, if I just click in the white area, it will assign the category. So all I'm going to do is make this one a little bit smaller. And you can still click in the white area here and it will add the category that we've chosen. Isn't it amazing that something as relatively simple as categories can be added in so many different ways? So what will you do if you have an item and you wanted to remove the category? Well, there are so many ways you can do this. I can click on the one that says drag and drag it out of the category, and it's now uncategorized. I could click on this item here. I could go back to any of the categorize buttons. And if I click on the category here, I've now removed that item from the list. We have this item here called ribbon. I'm going to click on the item here. If I go to all categories, there's a tick next to it. I'm going to choose to remove this item. If I press Control and F2 again, I've just removed the item again. There is another option. I can click on here at the very top. It says clear all categories. So even if I had more than one category, everything would disappear. But one of my favorite options is this little button I've added to my quick access toolbar called clear all categories. If I click on it, it will clear the categories from my list. How did I add this item to my quick access toolbar? I'll just quickly show you. I'm going to remove it by right clicking it. Click on the little arrow. At the bottom it says more commands. These are all of the items I've added already. So what I need to do now is click on popular commands,
and change that to all commands. Once I've done that, I'm just going to press the letter C to speed things up. And once I go through my list, there's a button here that says clear all categories. And when I click on an item that has a category, I just click on the blue circle and that item is now cleared completely. I'm now going to add some more categories on the task list. And I'm going to speed this bit up just to make it a little bit quicker. Now we can see that when we look at our task list, everything is organized beautifully. We can see all the categories and it just makes our lives so much easier. In fact, I'm just going to show you another quick tip. If I click on View, there's this beautiful button called Expand and Collapse. I've right-clicked it and I've already added it to my quick access toolbar. But look at all of these options here. I could now choose to collapse all my groups. There's little arrows next to it where I could open it up, or I could choose to expand all of my groups as well. So once we start to use categories, it certainly makes our lives so much more organized. However, there is another aspect with regards to categories I'd like just to make you clear of. Again, when we click on the categories, these items are alphanumeric. It just helps you to be able to organize things by hierarchy. What I'm going to do now is add some categories to my email account just to make my life easier. And again, I'll just speed this up a little bit. Before I start actually adding these categories, I need to rearrange my inbox. And as opposed to having it organized by date, you've guessed what I'm going to do. Click on this item here and organize it by categories. Again, I'm going to speed this bit up again just to make the whole process a little bit quicker. And now that I've categorized all the items and they're organized by categories, can you see how much easier it is for me to have my emails organized? Can you see we're going from chaos to calm by using categories? Now, let's move across to our calendar. This is one of the areas where many people use categories. However, in the calendar, this is probably the best view for 99% of us. So organizing it as a list and then organizing it by category, whilst possible, would not be very helpful. So in using the calendar, what we're going to do is just use the colors from the category as opposed to the organizational ability. So we've got the Meet Mandy for lunch. I could just click on my categories button and I'm going to choose the color red. And I'm going to choose the color red here as well. Can we see that's been quite easy to organize? However, when it comes to our calendar, coloring things can be done by categories, but there's a far more effective tool, and that will be shown in a video just a little bit later. So how are we now going to change our contacts and organize these by categories? Well, you've got lots of different views with our contacts. We can click on View, then we click on Change View. And we've got this view here, which is called People. We might use the Business Card view. We might have the Card view. But the one I'm encouraging you to look at is to organize your contacts as a list. And when you do so, then click on the Arrangement group and then click by Categories. At this point, I'm going to add a few categories, speed it up to make it a little bit quicker for you. And now, can you see in our list that we've now got our contacts in this unusual view organised by categories. I've got people from my accounts team. These are my best friends. This is my clients called the Ebony client. And even within my best friends, I've actually labelled a few people as warm friends in effect. Can you see that when we do it this way, it opens up the new world when I can start to communicate with people based on their category as opposed to spending lots of time trying to find my correct contacts. This is the classic view when looking at notes. However, what we might want to consider is looking at changing this, as you've guessed, by category. So we can click on Change View and change it from icons to a notes list. And at the moment, it's organised by date, so I'm going to change this to organise it by category. So what we're going to do now is look at this one, which is the Ebony client. So I'm going to click on the Categorize button, and we've got the Ebony client. This is the access to get to their particular building. And we've got this could be something to do with financial details, so I'll put it underneath the category called Accounts. This one here, what we're going to look at is something called Social as an example. But can we see now that when we look at the information that we're storing, as opposed to icons, whilst attractive, they're not as well organized as before. Just one more thing to clear up with categories. When you become a little bit more comfortable, it just raises questions on how to use them. For example, people ask me, should I categorize more than once? Well, you can do. We've got this invoice is due for payment. So if I click on my categorize button, I could easily click on accounts. But it's also something urgent. And when I click on urgent, it's in effect duplicated the email. It's here and it's here. The same item, but it also looks like it's there twice. So generally, what I encourage people to do, if you have more than one category to use, just look at the most important category. And what I'm going to do is uncategorize it from accounts. Because for me, it being urgent is more important than it being an accounts item. So this is something really helpful with regards to our categories. Also, there may come the occasion when you choose to delete a category. So I'm going to click back on my categorize button, click on all categories. So watch what happens here. We've got urgent, and I'm now going to delete the category. Really important to read what's happening here. It says, are you sure you want to delete the category full stop urgent? Deleting this category removes it from your category list, but does not affect your previously categorized items. So I'm going to say yes. Now it's telling me that this item, although it exists, it does not appear in my categories list or my master categories list. Can you see here the color is changed to white? But if I go back to my categories button, the category called urgent will no longer appear in my master category list. To bring it back, should you wish to do so, I'd click on all categories, make sure the item is highlighted, then click new, and it will regenerate your item into your master categories list. I do hope you've enjoyed this session on categories, and I wish I could say that was it, but this is just the beginning. There are so many other ways that categories are incorporated into your Outlook life. If you look at having rules in Outlook, we've got quick steps, we've got quick parts, we've got auto text. Filter is another universe. We can also look at search and even search folders. Once we start to use categories, there are so many more areas where we can start to use them. And I do promise you, I will prepare you more videos on those too.
I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video on Outlook categories. And can you see the potential of how it can really help you to organize your life? Please let me know in the comments how you felt about this video. And my plan is to produce videos just for you. So can you let me know what other content in the world of Microsoft you'd like me to produce? And if you get a moment, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, Paul Pennant Tech. I just can't wait to produce more content for you. You take care.